chosen in him, chosen by him, chosen in him, chosen before time. Those will be the 3 points we consider. He first chose us. Verse 4, he chose us. This is where Paul begins his celebration of spiritual blessings. He chose us. Divine choice precedes human response, and apart from divine choice, there would be no human response. In light of my sinfulness, my pervasive depravity, my wicked hostility toward God, if he didn't choose me, I would have never chosen him. And if we don't understand this point in particular, we will be vulnerable to misunderstanding divine election, misunderstanding sovereign grace. And I have found the following quote by Mark Webb from an article titled, "What Difference Does It Make?" to be most helpful in relation to this point. He describes teaching a survey of the doctrines of grace, and he asked for questions from the class. There was one lady in particular was quite troubled. She said, "This is the most awful thing I've ever heard. You make it sound as if God is intentionally turning away men and women who would be saved, receiving only the elect." And I answered her in this vein, "You misunderstand the situation. You're visualizing that God is standing at the door of heaven and men are thronging to get in the door, and God is saying to various ones, 'Yes, you may come, but not you, and you, but not you.' The situation is hardly this. Rather, God stands at the door of heaven with his arms outstretched, inviting all to come. Yet all men, without exception, are running in the opposite direction towards hell as hard as they can go. So God, in election, graciously reaches out. This isn't simply a quote. This is my story. And if you've been genuinely converted, this is your story. So God, in election, graciously reaches out and stops this one and that one and this one over here and that one over there, and effectually draws them to himself by changing their hearts, making them willing to come. Election keeps no one out of heaven who would otherwise have been there, but it keeps a whole multitude of sinners out of hell who otherwise would have been there. Were it not for election, heaven would be an empty place and hell would be bursting at the seams. That kind of response, grounded as I believe that it is in scriptural truth, does put a different complexion on things, doesn't it? If you perish in hell, blame yourself, as it is entirely your fault. But if you should make it to heaven, credit God, for that is entirely his will.